Alright, so on to the review for Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2. Alright, so on to the review for Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2. This is actually known as the shortest Harry Potter film, but then again, when you think about it, if you combine the two movies, it's the longest by far. But yeah, so it runs at about 210. So for anyone who might think that the previous movies maybe were a little long, this one might be closer to your alley. So hopefully those of you that are interested have watched or know about where the split was, where Voldemort has attained Dumbledore's wand, and Dobby had just died saving Harry Potter and the crew. So now Harry Potter is trying to figure out where the next Horcrux is, and we get a little bit of a backstory as to the Deathly Hallows for those who might have forgotten. You know, the Deathly Hallows being the Elder Wand, the most powerful wand in history, the Resurrection Stone, which can bring back the dead, and lastly, the Cloak of Invisibility. For those who haven't caught on yet, Harry has one of those things. He has the Cloak of Invisibility. Although they don't really do too great of a job explaining that in the movie. But yeah, if you have all three, you are defined as the Master of Death. After Harry talks to Griphook the Goblin, they just figure out a plan to break into Gringotts and steal the cup of Hufflepuff, which was in Bellatrix's vault. Harry kind of deduced that there was at least a Horcrux in there, based on the fact that Bellatrix kind of freaked out when the sword of Gryffindor was in possession of Harry Potter, Ron Weasley, and Hermione Granger's possession, and so she freaked out a little bit. So Harry kind of is like, well, must be a Horcrux there. So they make a plan there. But before they go on with the plan, Harry talks to Mr. Ollivander, the wand maker, and that's where we kind of get the background story to the Deathly Hallows and all that kind of fun stuff. Go forward a little bit. Hermione decides that she is going to use Polyjuice Potion, and imitate Bellatrix Lestrange. A very funny scene, by the way. And Rupert, they kind of just dress him up as more of a gruff-looking Death Eater of sorts. And pretty much the plan falls apart pretty quickly, but they manage to finagle their way into the vault, or Bellatrix's vault, which apparently all you really need is her wand. They attained her wand at the little mini fight they had at Malfoy Manor in the first part. So once they get into the vault, you see a dragon. The dragon, for anyone who's read the book, that's kind of important and is hinted at in the very first book, as a matter of fact, but I think glazed over in the first movie. Anyways, so they do find the cup after coming across a charm of sorts where anything you touch inside the vault multiplies 1,000,000,000 times. Well, anyways, they don't have anything to destroy it since Griphook ended up taking the sword for his own. Yeah, Harry and them end up making a dramatic escape by jumping on the back of the dragon after the security of Gringotts is like, all right, you're, and firing shit at him. So they end up making an escape where they're flying on a dragon through London. I was kind of making fun of the fact it's like, well, they were freaking out about having a car flying through London, and nope, no, not a dragon. Yeah, screw it. Dragon's fine. It's just a big airplane, right? Except it flaps its wings. Well, anyways, the dragon doesn't seem to notice that they are on his back, and they eventually jump off and figure out, hey, we need to get to Hogwarts, and let's just finish this thing. So really, the whole movie takes place over like a day and a half, or like a day. So this is a really long day when you think about it. But yeah, so they end up going into Hogsmeade, which for anyone who doesn't know is the all wizarding village that's right next or nearby Hogwarts, where the kids would go on like a Christmas vacation of sorts, and they could go to Hogsmeade and go to like the Hog's Head or whatever, or the Three Broomsticks, stuff like that. And they apparate in there, and there's this like security system where like all these cats are screeching, and that tells them that people that apparated in there shouldn't be. Well, then you get Aberforth Dumbledore's brother, saves him, and they have a little bit of a talk. And it really glazes over the fact that Aberforth was not a big fan of his brother Albus, and they really, really underplayed the death of the sister Ariana. But yeah, there's not much you can really say about that unless you've read the books. But let's just say that Albus was somewhat responsible for the death of his sister Ariana. And then, there's also the talk about his dad going nuts, and, they completely undercut that fact. That was really dramatic and added a lot to Albus's backstory, but no. I get it. You need the movie to keep on going forward, but I think it would have helped out the story of Dumbledore a little bit if you would have had that in there. Just my opinion. So then, without really going too far, we're about an hour into the movie already for anyone who's interested in this. They get into Hogwarts by a new tunnel because all the tunnels had been caved in or whatnot, or under a watchful eye, and they get into what I'm assume is Gryffindor, Gryffindor's old common room, and now Harry is searching for the diadem of Rowena Ravenclaw. Really, there's not much else to say other than Harry is trying to destroy the Horcruxes so he can finally kill Voldemort, and there's a big old battle that takes place during most of this. So yeah, a very easy review in my opinion to do. So my favorite scene was actually closer to the end, I'd say, with Snape and his memories. Right before Harry ends up going to the Forbidden Forest, he ends up putting in Snape's memories in the pensieve, and you kind of see that Snape is actually a rather tragic hero. If you guys don't know this already, then, whatever. Snape is a very tragic hero, in my opinion, and I think, honestly, Alan Rickman deserves an Oscar just because he's that awesome as Snape. It's a little skewed, I know, but you know what? Alan Rickman did a great job, and this showed how good of an actor he is. Because he's played, pretty jaded and all that kind of stuff throughout the entire series, and you actually see him, crying and stuff. You're like, whoa, Snape's crying, that's weird. But yeah, definitely a great scene because you get the whole backstory of how Snape clearly loved Harry's mother, Lily. And it just adds that backstory that, like I said, undercut. It shows that Snape was probably the most tragic hero of the entire series, and then they cut out all of Albus's stuff. Come on. Alright, so pros and cons. Pros, it's a very solid ending to the entire story. It's sad to see it go. Very sad. Cons, they cut out, for them saying they were going to be really faithful to the book, I say they actually took a lot of liberties. And, the fight between Harry and Voldemort at the end, I liked the fact that they changed it because I was not a fan of how it ended in the book. Some people have told me they're not a fan of the epilogue or the 19 years later thing. I never was a fan of the book, but that part of the book, but the movie, whatever, it was fine. I understand it. It was, kind of there are more stories to be told type of deal, I think. Not like saying that Warner Brothers is making more sequels, but more that just because this story has ended in it doesn't mean that the story of this world isn't over. There were just a lot of liberties taken. That's really my biggest con, is that they changed some stuff that I don't know why they bothered. I mean, they could have added 10 more minutes to this movie and it still would have been just as awesome, I think. That's just me. But when the Blu-ray DVD comes out, there'll probably be deleted scenes that probably would have added more, but they felt maybe it just ruined the pacing of the movie or something. Who knows? Alright, so my score for this movie is a 4.5 out of 5. I really did enjoy this movie. Not as perfect as the first part was. Maybe it's because this is more action-oriented and less plot-driven, but you know what? When you think about it, that for me, that makes it a 9.5 out of 10. So 9.5, that's an A for both movies for the part 1 and part 2. So yep, 4.5 out of 5 for Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2.